get started here. Anybody calling in?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, we have our quorum, and so let's do a roll call. Maybe start with Logan. Go around the table.
Logan Dunning, member, present.
Tracy Sabina, alternate, present.
Elizabeth Shaw, alternate, present.
Fitzgerald, member, present.
Mike Chisholm, present.
Melanie Lynn, staff liaison, present.
Adrian Torres, open space manager, present.
Tiana Duncan, member, present.
Christine Brinker, member, present.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Okay, call to order and welcome our guests. Adrian, thank you for showing up.
You betcha.
We're on the edge of our seats, waiting to hear what you have to say. Okay. Okay, approval of minutes, and we've got March 12th. Any revisions, corrections, concerns, modifications? Don't see any problems. Get a motion to approve
Motion to approve March minutes.
first. Second, Tia, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, upcoming tasks and events, standing community project updates. Should I just go ahead and jump into mine?
Oh, sorry, we have one
Yep.
addition to the agenda.
Okay.
So, member Matthew Schultz got a promotion at work, which is wonderful, but he's gonna be traveling a lot. So he stepped down from the commission. So we already reached out to Tracy as our longest alternate to see if she would like to be bumped up to a full member, and she said yes. So
Thank you,
all that
thank
she
you.
needs is you all to vote that you agree that she should be member. So that is the first.
Thank you. I
update on the item.
thought it was, sorry, Tracy, I spaced that out. So we just bring it to a vote?
Bring it to a vote, and that's it.
Okay, can we vote on moving Tracy into full-time status? Do we need a motion, or do we just do a show of hands?
A motion, just to
Okay,
make
can I
it
get a motion to
legitimate.
approve?
I make a
No
motion.
one can fight it.
Enthusiastically second.
Oh.
And second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nay?
Well, thanks.
Thank you, Tracy.
Welcome,
Appreciate
Tracy.
it. We are moving here, man.
Okay, now it's the first
Okay.
vote.
I just wanted to give an overview. Mel and I were invited to a sustainability group meeting up in Westminster, groups like ours. So Boulder, Westminster, Longmont, I think somebody else. And I just did this takeaway. So we didn't decide anything. It was getting to know you and what's going on in your community and what are you up to. I think this summary speaks for itself. Probably the one thing that I want to comment on, which I thought was interesting, of the 4 communities at our table, we broke up into discussion groups. The common theme was sustainability groups like ours struggling with or wanting to be more proactive. I think everybody said initially we were set up, city council, city leadership said, gee, we got to support sustainability, and we got to, and it was ill-defined. And so that's what we do here. We define it every month. But the common theme was, I think, a desire to be more proactive and to be more assertive, respectfully, with city council. But yes, if city council wants our opinion on something, absolutely, we appreciate it. And the tree ordinance is a good example. Some of the discussion we have tonight, I would say, is more proactive. So I just found it interesting that sort of the evolution is consistent along the Front Range. And I think it's healthy. And I would say that city councils and leadership are pretty much as confused as we are about our evolving role. And so I guess my takeaway is don't be shy.
You're hearing that in other cities as well? Is that what you're saying?
Boulder had an interesting thing, and I'm not going to be totally accurate, but when the city council puts their agenda together, their sustainability group said, can you talk to us first, or can you ask us if we have anything that we would like you to discuss? And their city council said, sure. So I thought that was interesting. So it's sort of a tag before the agenda goes together for sustainability is elevated to a point where either their council says, we hope you talk about whatever this month, or city council can say, we need to talk about X, Y, Z. So again, more proactive, a little more structured, and I think it's great. It's frustrating because there's so many good ideas, there's a lot of energy, and then you find yourself saying, should we call ourselves an institute? Should we meet again? And, you know, I mean, it's like, we're just forming here, and now there's another. I don't know if anything's going to come of it, but I think we said we'd go to one more meeting if they invite us. So stay tuned.
What do you think about it?
So,
I thought it was good. I do think a lot of this good ideas that folks brought up for commissions interacting with city council, I feel like Englewood does a decent bit of it. So the Boulder example, they were talking about an agenda before city council's retreat, which this commission already does a memo to them each year of what they would like to think of. So I think we're in a really good spot, especially compared to how other commissions said that they interacted with city council. So that was really good to hear. But definitely a storming and norming meeting of like, you have all these people from different communities.
a lot of energy.
A lot of energy.
No direction,
Yeah.
but lots of energy.
A lot of energy after 5 p.m.
That's how it starts.
Thanks to you though for
Okay.
representing us there.
It's interesting that the similarities between the communities real, and sort of why are we here and how can we push this thing forward with a sense of urgency, I guess is a common theme. So, okay, so we want to move on to the next discussion point.
Are we still on A, standing community projects?
Anyone can add.
Just flagging something. So the communications calendar, obviously, I'm tracking that a bit more closely now after my faux pas last time. So the spring edition should go, or excuse me, the summer edition should go to print next week. So be on the lookout for that. I have not seen a proof from the city's communications team, but fingers crossed, that looks good. And then flagging for the May meeting, which I understand is later in the agenda, that will give us the appropriate runway for our subcommittee to meet and recommend topics for the fall edition. So let's circle back and make sure that's on next month's agenda. Please.
Cool. Thanks.
Sorry to schedule the subcommittee's meeting during the May meeting, right?
Is that most efficient, you think? Can we do that?
Whatever you all think. I
Maybe
just
we
didn't
could
know what
meet,
you
like-
wanted me to write down for the May meeting.
Maybe we could meet like 15 minutes before or after. That might be easy. Yeah, let's do that. And you and I can connect now. We need further steps. Okay.
May 14th.
May 14th.
Any other standing committee topic, feedback? Okay. So greenhouse gas targets.
That's me.
This is a follow-up from last month.
Yep, so follow-up from last month. So I think everyone was here from last time when we talked about the greenhouse gas targets that the city's going to propose when the updates go to city council on April 15th. That's when they go in front of them. And the commission asked for kind of to see a better idea of what the future projections are so far. So I got together with the ICLEI folks who are the champions at all this data, and we went through. So this first graph that you're seeing is just business as usual with Xcel Energy's electricity decarbonization plan. And notice that still leaves a lot in the energy, and that's because all of that is natural gas. So they have a plan to clean up the grid, but natural gas is not part of that. So those are some declines there. And then we say, okay, what if we add on 100% EV by 2050, which is Governor Polis's plan he has in place. And so we put that in. You see it goes a little further. And then I know this is insanely hard to see, That blue line on top of the red, that is a 25th, that's a 50% reduction by 2030. I know it's like unbelievably hard to see. I even struggle too. And then the one underneath it, that red line, that's a 60% reduction by 2030. That yellow line you see going out there, that's a 90% reduction by 2050. So I just want to point that out first. And so those are the two things that were like, okay, Excel said that they're going to do this. The state said that they really wanted to do this. Something we don't have in here is the state's extended producer responsibility program that they say conservatively they're estimating 47% diversion in waste by 2035. We didn't toggle any of that data, so that waste will probably be a little bit lower. And then the state also has pretty aggressive EV goals to 2030, but we just did their whole span of 2050. So you see that gradual decline. So that could be a lot lower by 2030. We just did kind of the more conservative 2051. So you see we got closer, but we're still far away from that goal. So this, I think, is a great example of like what can individual cities do to help reduce that greenhouse gas emissions. I just put one example in there. This is not something that folks have to, or a city would have to do, but since a majority of those emissions are natural gas, like an overwhelming majority is natural gas usage, if we do a 50% reduction, or if we electrify 50% of our buildings, both in residential and commercial, we drop it by a ton. We're basically at that 50% mark, and we're close to that 60% mark. You can toggle with other things here and there. The other thing I want to add on to that before I get into the staff recommendations again. So that can seem really daunting, right? You have that 50% reduction in that 5-year period. Building electrification is something the state and the Front Range is very honed in on right now. This is really the only one of the multiple ways that we can reach not only the state's reduction goals, but to keep us under that 1.5 by mid-century. And so the Front Range communities, we've all been working for the last few months. Just a few weeks ago, we submitted a joint application to the EPA for the Climate Pollution Reduction grant, and it's a $199 million grant to help fund building decarbonization in the Front Range with a special focus on disadvantaged communities. I personally am biased, but I think we're a really good fit for this grant, and I hope we get it. But even beyond that, there's a lot of work going on to decarbonize the building sector. And then I have a whole bunch of data, if you guys wanted to see it, of what happens if we don't hit that 1.5 by 2050. It's pretty scary. If you guys want to see it, I can show it to you. I have that ready, but do you want to see it? Okay, I'll show you.
I'm sorry.
So this is from, my partner's literally like doing the most depressing job. I'm like, no, but it's worth it. Okay, so this is from an article from NPR from the end of 2023, and it just says, what does it look like if we exceed that 1.5 Celsius? And so if we keep under 1.5, you see on the left, we're gonna have some warming. Colorado, you know, we're still, that orange part is more of the mountains. This red map is if we exceed that 1.5. We're looking at about, I think we're in that 9 degree temperature increase, and 9 degrees is a lot. And then not only that, I know it seems kind of funny because you're thinking of climate change and everything gets hot, but that precipitation from that heat actually makes storms so much stronger that come in. And so our heaviest of storms, we're about right here, will increase about 10%. And flooding has been something I know I heard from other residents that they're very concerned about, so that will only get worse. And then the last doom and gloom, if we don't keep under 1.5, we're about right here. We'll have about, let's see, like 25 extra days over 95 degrees in our area. It's just, it'll get hot, it'll get miserable, it'll get terrible. So that's my doom and gloom for today.
Well, the report today, this is the hottest March, I think, on record, and there's something like the last 8 or 9 months globally were the hottest months on the globe. So it's real, it's happening. And I do hope we can have a sense of urgency in what we do around here. And I don't think no project is too small, and it's frightening.
Yeah.
What else could you say? It's frightening.
One thing I will want to say for the staff recommendation, there was just one tweak from last time. Last time we said we were going to recommend that 50% reduction, do the stretch goal of 60, but hearing from the commission of saying like we should just do that science-based target. So we switched it to just having that by 2030. I'm still having the 90%, not 100 by 2050. And that still goes back to the fact that our city council is pretty neutral, I would say, temperature-wise, pun maybe intended there, on climate action. So I worry that doing 100% reduction will just completely derail all of the recommendations. And talking with the folks at ICLEI, both targets are very important, but it's really that 60% by 2030, getting stuff in place, getting stuff running, that is really important. And the last thing I want to say is 2050 is 25 years away. There's always time at 2030 to go back and say we want to do 100. I would hate to have that one target be what derails everything. So that's what staff is going to recommend.
So there are politics involved in terms of what's.
There's always politics
There's always
involved in
politics.
government.
I mean, speaking for myself, whatever we could do to get something to happen soon, because you can exceed a target. You set a target at 60%, and hit 70, terrific. I just don't want paralysis to set in to where we're arguing over targets. You know, let's get this ship moving here. So that's my opinion.
So I guess next step for you all, one, discussion. If you all want to have discussion, absolutely. But if you agree with them, you can vote to agree with them. We add that into our city council memo. You all do not have to agree with them though. If you as a group decide something else, we can add that in the note as well when it goes to city council. So completely up to you all.
Well, I appreciate, you explaining the 90%. Obviously, we are all wanting 100, that we wouldn't be on the Sustainability Commission if we didn't want that. But just you saying that there's that possibility of changing that to 100% come 2030, I think, yeah, I would agree.
Sure.
Mayor Sierra, not to put you on the spot, but from what I said about like doing the 100 of that maybe not being in the best interest, do you kind of see that as true, not true? I would love to hear your take on it.
No, I think that's true, Miss England, just because you know best since you've had to stand in front of us and kind of justify why we're trying to do some of the things that we're looking to do. So I think that's correct. I think it does make sense for staff to put forward the recommendation that you're stating, but obviously members of council can make the decision to change it to a more favorable target that this commission kind of agrees with. So I can definitely push that subject when the time comes, but I do agree with your explanation.
I also think, I was gonna say, I think it's also a pretty realistic goal because, that last 10% is always gonna be the hardest part to actually reduce. And in place of, buying carbon credits and offsetting whatever that last 10% is, if we wanted to just completely eliminate our greenhouse gases, those last 10% will be the hardest and might require new technology, carbon capture, what have you. So I think the 90% might actually be more realistic goal for us. That's a good point.
I just out of curiosity, how are they measuring this?
Measuring which part?
The greenhouse, how are they tracking their emissions, right?
So for us, I'm the one that did our greenhouse gas inventory. So do you mean for City of Englewood specifically?
Yeah.
So
Or all of Yeah, no, I'm just curious because I've seen like this, I come from the software world and I've seen this a lot and it becomes a continual problem of, for everybody, not just you. It's like, how do we measure it? Because like now you gotta account for like the FedEx truck driving to do deliveries and things like that.
So for the transportation, and so the ClearPath tool is what I would say a majority of local governments and beyond are using for their greenhouse gas inventory. They have this tool that's like very user-friendly and it does all the math for you on the back end. But for the transportation, we get that from Google Environmental Insights Explorer, and they have all this like data that is way over my head of how they pull everything. I can share that link with you if you want to look at that methodology. And then for stuff like commercial energy and residential energy, that all comes from Xcel Energy. They have publicly available community energy reports where they say, this is how many premises you have, this is how many kilowatt hours you use, natural gas you use. Like they make it really easy to find all that stuff. So we pull all that data into this tool and then it spits out what our greenhouse gas emissions are.
But this isn't going, and this, I don't care. This was more curiosity. It's not going so far as to say like, hey, how did you get to work today? Did you take a bus?
No. This is high level. So it takes like those big data points.
Okay.
And puts them in. It does not get to the nitty gritty. I don't think there would be any feasible way to do that.
Yeah.
But we do for the nitty gritty, actually, for the municipal one, we do look at that.
Yeah.
Like I send out a survey and I look at people's voluntarily, I look at their mileage and their miles per gallon and we put it for the employee commute, but that's just for municipal.
No, that makes sense. This was more just off of curiosity, and you're right, that's the hardest thing, right? Like how can we, account for all of that, especially it's. I was just curious.
Any other thoughts or comments? Would anyone like to make a motion of some kind or another regarding staff recommendations?
Yeah, motion to approve these and put them forward before the city council.
Second.
I'll take that as a first. Do we have a second
Second.
on that? Here. Oh, I'm sorry. Second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Nay. Does that help, Mel? You have a recommendation?
Y'all are done.
Great, good work. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you all for, and I really appreciate that you all wanted to see further into the greenhouse gas stuff. I think that just shows, one, how diligent you all are, and yeah, the responsibility you all take for this, so I appreciate that.
It's a good discussion last month too.
All right, turf map presentation.
Adrian and I are now
Great.
up for this. So this was a project in the sustainability plan. I believe it was back when Deanna was on the commission. It was a full discussion about native plants. And this is one that popped out of it. We worked with our GIS team. Hopefully everyone accessed the map. I'm gonna pull it up here in a little bit too so we can toggle between it. But yeah, we've been working with the Parks Department to figure out what a feasible and achievable goal is for turf conversion. So I'll pass it over to Adrian while I pull up
Bring the map up.
this map.
Well, after listening to what Mike said earlier, I want to let you guys know that we as a department are listening. So those of you that have worked with me and know me, hopefully can believe that. So we have, lots of things in planned. Those of you who have heard about Bates Logan Phase 3, I submitted the grant this afternoon, and that'll be 50,000 square feet of turf conversion to native plants. So we are listening and taking your guys' recommendations into consideration. So I want you guys to know that after what Mike said earlier, that we as a department are listening to you guys and others who are passionate about this.
We appreciate that.
So I think this could be more of just a discussion. A lot of these areas, when Mel had the first slide up, as some of you may know or may not know, we're going to go for a geo bond this fall for It'll include 10 parks. Some of you that were on this commission, we did a presentation. Brad and I came sometime last year and showed you the parks. So a big piece of that bond is turf conversion. So that's why it sways our target date quite a bit. You know, if the bond does go, then we will accelerate these projects quite a bit. Versus those who've been in Inglewood quite a while, like me, we move slow and things take time. So if that's the case, then we're gonna have to, you know, Bates Logan's a great example. That took 3-4 years for us just to complete that part. Do we have a master plan that targets these areas and has conversion to native in it as well?
So hopefully you all saw, but the targets as of now were 50% by 2030. If we get that bond funding, and then if we don't get that bond funding, just because that's a lot of obviously funds the city wouldn't have, that's 50% by 2050. So extending that out
From 30 to 50?
from 30 to 50, yeah. And that is including any of these areas in pink were the ones that were identified as areas that would be good to convert, or not good, but like likely good candidates to convert to native.
So can you pinpoint some of those areas for me?
Yeah, so is there one specifically you want to bring up or just any?
Just any's fine, yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking right here is this big swath that was identified, that little, isn't this Little Dry Creek Trail?
Yeah, so
Is that depot?
Yes, that's.
So Depot's right there, we already marked that as
Okay,
converted. And yeah, so this area and this, which are huge, in my opinion.
And that's right now just weeds or untended, correct? So
Correct.
so the good news would be we would convert from whatever weeds are in there into Colorado scaping or more native type of plants. I've wondered about that stretch. There's a lot of dirt in there. That's a lot of territory.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there is a bike path in there, so
Yep.
cool.
You know, part of the bond park project in that area would be a dog park, so some of that may be taken by a dog park. You know, and there's plans for, you know, other projects in there, but that's definitely an area that we could get a big win.
No, that's encouraging. I think that's great. Any others that
Zoom in there, that's a good one.
jump out?
Yeah, areas right here where it's just like this unused
So that's the
space.
interchange. So that could be a big win for us as well. So that's kind of the plaza area along with the 285 and Broadway interchange. You know, a lot of that is turf now, which is unusable. So that's another area that we targeted that we could get some big wins at.
Great.
Yeah, good idea.
This is really neat.
How many of the parks are gonna, like Bates Logan, obviously is one of them, but how many of the parks will have turf conversion as part of this?
I would say it's a piece of all of them.
Okay.
So, you know, the bond is focusing on 10 parks and Pirates Cove and the Rec Center are also in that, but the 10 parks that are targeted for the bond all have a native piece in them. And some are, you know, quite a bit. If you want to go up to, let's see, go towards Bellevue now.
Wait, isn't Bellevue down?
Bellevue South, right?
There we go. Turned around on your map.
This is Bellevue, right?
Bellevue?
Oh.
Okay.
Yep, you know, Bellevue along the creek, we have a lot of areas that we could convert.
That's great.
If you go, let's see, go back up now. Go to Rotolo, there we go. So Rotolo and Southwest Greenbelt,
Yeah.
you know, that's another spot that we could, you know, the part that's green at the big park is an athletic field. And then those are kind of slopes that we would turn to native. And then half of the half of the trail, if you ever walk through the green routes, half would be native, some would still be turf. So there's a lot of places that we've identified that we could potentially convert to native. You know, our biggest challenge, not our biggest challenge, but one of our challenges is irrigation systems, and they are very expensive and they're not fun or no one sees them. So that's another piece that's really expensive on a ton of these projects.
But you won't need irrigation systems.
Well, we're working with Altera Restoration on Bates Logan, and kind of what we're doing at Bates Logan is we'll keep the irrigation system to get the seed established.
To get it started.
Yes, so we have way more success rate in the first couple of years if we can supplement irrigation as needed. You know, the end goal is to not irrigate, but in the time being, you know, to have success in these projects, they will need supplemental irrigation to get established.
Adrian, is there such a thing as an interim irrigation system? In other words, over at Depot Park, I think it had to be irrigated for the first year or something.
Yep.
And then I don't know whether you just turn it off or whether you tear out the irrigation system. But as you go into this process, I'd hate to think that you have to put in a full-blown irrigation system and then 3 years later you don't need it.
You know, most of it is modifying the current irrigation system is kind of how
It's really a new science.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
And we're, you know, we're gonna lean heavily on this group and other groups in Altera Restoration to help us, because this is definitely, you know, a lot of our guys are, you know, turf majors and things like that. That this is all new to us too, so we're learning along the way too, but.
And I also want to say, one of the discussion points we're going to have at this meeting is, to say thank you to City Council and the departments for what has been going on, and then some encouragement. And as I go through the draft, some of our encouragement is, for lack of a better term, you guys need to go to school.
Yes.
I don't want that to be offensive. In other words, we're saying the whole city has to embrace this. We got to get into it. So as you hear our recommendations of things, please take it with the right spirit, that we're not pointing fingers at anybody saying they're wrong. It's revolutionary what we're asking people to do, and we appreciate that.
Well, we appreciate the support. You know, we got a contact from the state today to do hopefully some training on some native plantings and stuff like that. So
great.
We've talked to Altera Restoration about educating staff, and you know, you guys know better than anybody, there's a difference, like you said, at Cushing between a weed and between a native plant. And my guys are not there yet, but we need to learn as these projects progress and mature.
Right.
So, and that's just my industry wide. You know, this is a hot topic. I attend a lot of the Colorado Parks and Recreation Association. I'm on the board, and you know, this is not just here, but we are uneducated in this specific area. Sure. We're good at growing grass. So, you know, that's what we've done our whole career. So it's definitely some learning for sure.
It's a new ballgame.
Yeah, but we're, you know,
it's cool though.
Yeah, we know that, and we're reaching out to the experts in the field to rely on them to give us those expertise as far as, you know, seed blends and what's successful here. And so yeah,
Adrian, does Altera have an education wing where they specialize in public outreach or campaigns?
Not that I'm aware of. They have said they would educate our staff, and I'm sure we can arrange it to educate the public. You know, one of my hopes at Bates Logan, and I'll need everybody's help, is, well, you guys know, with the depot as an example, the first few years it doesn't look great. So, you know, to get the education piece that this is coming and this will eventually look totally different than it does now. So that piece is gonna be very important to make any of these projects successful.
So will there be a sign
Yes.
kind of explaining?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
because
We
the
got a
education
small-
piece is huge.
Yes, we got a small piece of Bates Logan Phase 2, which will currently go under construction this fall. That is gonna be native, that's kind of centrally located by the playground. And my hope is to start there, and that way we can say, this is a year in. This is what it looks like in a year. This may look like dirt now, but this is a year in. And then on year 2, see, the progress we're making on this side, this will eventually look like that. So that's my hope with Bates Logan, to have lots of signage and, to educate the public on the different plants that are planted in there. Yes, ma'am.
Well, 2 things. You could put up a QR code and then just update the webpage.
Yes, we've talked about that.
Then,
We've-
a little video. That's, in the terms of education, have you reached out to CSU with they have like several spots in Arapahoe County where they do education for gardeners and things like that, and they do focus on the native plants?
Yes,
Okay.
so
That
they
was
helped
just
us
idea.
quite.
I'm
I'm
just
sorry?
throwing it out. I said it was just idea, just throwing it out there. I don't
Yeah.
want you to think I was bossing you.
No, go ahead. I'm used to getting bossed around. Ask Mike.
Don't even, you are the boss.
But yes, CSU's extension office helped us quite a bit at Depot with our seed mix and stuff like that. So we do have some great resources that we're starting to tap into.
Last question for me. Is Altera the group that you're working with for all park projects?
No, because we don't have, the bond or anything isn't in place. So just for Bates Logan
Okay.
is where we're starting. We're kind of past design into construction, into seed mixes, into stuff like that.
When
So once
the
we
bond, will it into existence? When the bond is in place, will there be an RFP for other groups, or would you just go with the city, just partner with Altera on all of that?
I don't know. We'll see how it goes with Artera. They're very positive and we're starting a great relationship.
Mhm.
But for the procurement policy and all that stuff, we'll probably have to put out an RFP to get more experts in the field. And they're not the only game in town. So, but we're off to a great start with that group.
A budding relationship.
Yes. Yes, we met with them. They did soil samples within the last couple weeks. So,
Great.
they are very confident that our project at Bates will succeed. Most of their projects are kind of how Mike was saying at Cushing, where they come in and it's already full weeds. And they have 3 years of trying to get rid of weeds before they can even start the process. So,
Do they specialize in native plants?
yes, they started in fire restoration and they've kind of evolved as, they're still into that and they're out of Fort Collins, but they've kind of been doing more parks recently.
Does the process for procurement, do you have to do it by project, or can you group a bunch of projects together? I mean, depending upon, let's say you get the bond, you're gonna get the bond. Let's just say that.
I like that attitude.
Kind of how it would work is that we would write an RFP that said contractor who's building the park needs to work with Altera for the native piece expertise of the project.
Okay.
Is how we would kind of write it into the specs for the RFP.
Okay.
I want to put you on the spot.
Again?
This is not fair. First of all, Adrian is a guy who put up with me in my biochar. So
Yeah.
Mike,
You
we've
guys
all
know
put up with you in your
everybody's
biochar.
yummy.
he just wanted me to get out of his office.
I'm like,
But
He's a
here's
teacher.
my checkbook, here's my checkbook.
thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I'm still preaching the gospel of biochar. Speaking of the rec center, there was some construction. So we did the biochar on the right.
A little birdie gave me a heads up downstairs.
So my thought would be, could we put some native plants on the left side going into the rec center? I will say this, and I will do it I enjoyed watering the flowers and going over and weeding and I was amazed at the number of people who stopped and wanted to know, what the heck's biochar? These flowers look great. A lot of people really appreciate that floral arrangement going in. I think it'd be cool if we could even have a tiny little pollinator garden off to the side with a sign on it, and we'd say, stay tuned, more is coming. But think about that, will
Yeah,
you?
no, I love the idea.
I mean,
You know, the
if
more
the-
we can, as many people's come through there, as the more that we can get the word out of.
Yeah.
Native plants are just as beautiful as other things, then, we can.
And I'll weed them, I promise. I'll take care of them.
And I've
But I
seen
think
you
we
in
have a lot of
action.
volunteers, even among this group,
Yeah, for
that-
the park, we had all the
that-
volunteers.
they give a hoot. They wanna see it work, so.
And you guys are the experts. You'll pull the weeds,
Yeah, yeah.
not the plants.
So, that'd be fun. if
Yeah,
could
we can definitely
pull
have
something
that
off like that.
discussion. I would love to see that,
Thank you.
people for that.
So we'll get the volunteers as needed, right? Right,
Oh, yeah.
right,
Yes,
everybody?
we will.
All right. Any other questions or want to put them on the spot or challenge anything you said?
Mel, can you scroll down on the part that says percent of turf areas pink that can be? So that's the percent of like all of the,
So the properties that Englewood owns, so the orange is asphalt, the green is turf that has to stay turf, and then the pink is stuff where it's like, yes, this makes sense. And this, even though it says like the 7.24, this is not like we didn't go exact, like down to the block and do everything. So this is more of like a general, but it probably is around that 7%.
And this also includes the golf course. So. we
Yeah, I
have-
didn't even think of that.
Yeah, we have got some wins at the golf course.
take out all the golf.
Yeah, that's also.
The golf was,
You just need a tee box and a bunch of sand, I think it's good.
I didn't even think of that. That's probably why it impacts it so much.
It
because
does,
the
that's,
golf
that's a
course.
huge,
Yeah.
that's a lot of acres.
But they converted a lot at the golf course.
Did they?
Yeah,
they
so
did a
this,
ton.
it's hard to tell, this blue is converted.
Oh, wow.
So they did a whole initiative of going in there and converting to native plants.
Nice.
Yeah, we got some big wins at the golf course as well.
Just don't look at all the green part of it.
Is that within the Englewood boundary? Or is that-
Yeah, so it's, as someone who works in Sheridan, this is, they're always like, you guys got our golf course, but
Yeah.
this is in Sheridan, but it's City of Englewood.
Oh, interesting.
There's the lines there, same with down there by Centennial. Some of the Centennial Park is in Sheridan.
Gosh, I wonder if you controlled for the golf course and just for sake of data, removed it. That, I wonder what that 7.2 would do. That's a huge chunk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway,
If Fletcher has time, we'll be like, hey,
Hey,
try to
Fletcher.
in all your.
omitting this. If I get an answer by next meeting, I'll give an update on what that would be.
Okay.
It would impact it quite a bit.
Huge, yeah.
Well, this is very encouraging.
This is great, Adrian.
I do have one quick question. So with the Bates Logan Park, obviously that's the first implementation. What is the strategy for removing the grass?
I don't know. So, Altera is helping, we don't even have a contractor in place yet.
Okay.
So we haven't been even awarded the grant. So I can't, to be fair, I can't
Okay.
answer that.
I wasn't sure if that was to that point yet or not, so. Because we can weigh in on that when you get to that point.
Do you have ideas from your?
Yeah, I'm curious, yeah, like,
Yeah.
I
Did
was
something go
curious.
wrong with yours?
Not removing the turf and not using glyphosate. So those are my two things. But what I've done with my yard is just a thick layer of mulch and the X board underneath and just letting it sit. But it takes time.
Yeah.
And I know there are some native landscapers that use glyphosate as long as they do it wisely, but I'm just very against it, so.
We'll have that discussion when we get there.
Yes, I know.
So the grant will be awarded in August, August 1st. Then I'll go back to council to get an IGA with Arapahoe County. Then I'll put it on an RFP, and then we'll get a contractor. So just to give you an idea, phase 2 hasn't even started.
Oh,
So we've
okay.
awarded a contract and they'll start this fall. But it's probably this time next year that will be in the same process for phase 3.
That helps. It's gonna happen, like you said.
And Mike wrote me a nice support letter for the phase 3 grant.
What's that?
You wrote me a nice support
Oh,
letter for
sure.
the grant.
No.
He's like,
it's-
wait, I did?
Take it back.
No, that's, every so often, the city needs a vote of support from citizenry. And some of us got requested, so I cheated. I took the form letter and used it, but I meant everything I said. I love the momentum. I love the direction it's going. I'm impatient, but I understand
Yes.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yes.
But we'll keep bugging you.
That's
That's our
fine.
job.
Mike knows where to find me. I think he's got a key.
He does.
Yeah.
Short question. For the GEO bond, what does GEO stand for? What does it mean?
That's a great question. Mayor, do you know?
General obligation bond.
Okay.
I was gonna say, go. Mayor, do you have anything to add?
Well, I guess there's one thing, just because I was one of the dissenting voices during the conversation of the GO bond. And I think I was swayed by obviously the residents that came up and talked about how a majority of the pocket parks were where the native plants were going to go in. So obviously the native plants to me is something that I will support. What I didn't like about the plan was just the fact that there was additional structures that were going into the pocket parks. And for me, and some of the citizens that I've talked to that live close to the pocket parks, that's what they like about the pocket parks, is that there's just benches and nothing else. And so I thought that we were just adding additional costs that weren't needed for those type of pocket parks when there's like Bates Logan's really close to Clarkson or some of those other parks. So that was really why I was a little hesitant in my approval of the plan. So, but overall, I think it's a great job by staff and the team for putting something together for us.
Okay. Ready to move on?
Am I off the hook, Mike?
Thank you.
I'm off the hook.
I think you're on the hook.
Well, thanks for having me. You know, I'll come back whenever you guys want to have me or need an update or whatever. Just let Mel know and she'll let me know. So.
This is also Adrian's second late night working and he gets in at like 5:30 in the morning,
Yeah.
so be free.
Yeah, thanks.
I made the mistake of jokingly complaining to Adrian one time about coming in at 7 and he lets me do this full thing. And at the end, he's like, I got in at 5:30 this morning. I was like, Adrian, get out of here. I gotta go in too.
I told her I'd wake her up. Time to wake up.
I'm just not a morning person.
Thanks for all you do.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Adrian.
you.
All right, where are we now? Okay. Kara's not on board.
Oh,
as far as
she
I'm-
is-
Kara, you're
she
here.
popped
Great,
on.
thank you.
So sorry.
We're going to turn the microphone over to you, Cara, and talk to us about what you wrote down and what you'd like to recommend.
Okay, cool. Hey guys. So revisiting this part 2 of recommendations to update the city code to reflect the use of United Western native plants. If you all remember, part 1 of this was the tree ordinance. And we kind of drafted this part 2 on top of that. Englewood City Code does not reflect the use of Colorado native plants or U.S. Western native plants. So I think the recommendation here would be to put a recommendation in front of council. And that's kind of what we started with this draft last fall. And so I don't know, how the committee still feels about it. And moving forward with a recommendation to City Council to update the code. A big part of it, we've had some comments from local citizens, just regarding, sometimes people have native gardens and they are mistaken for weeds. And so they receive citations from the city, because, it looks like maybe they have a weed in their front yard or something, but actually it's a native plant. And there's no carve out for native plants in the city code. And so the recommendation would be to update, ordinance, I don't know if it's ordinance 98 to 39 and 22 to 2022, section 1. I don't know, there's a specific section that we highlighted kind of from last fall. But it, calls out cutting or causing to be cut all weeds that are on the Colorado noxious weed list or non-native turf grass over 12 inches in height. And so that was sort of the discussion that we had last fall. And so I think we're just now picking that up and carrying it on to see how the group feels. And if we want to mark up this draft that we started with last fall.
Cara, do you want me to share the screen to the draft or keep it on this side of the high level?
You have a hard copy over there?
I mean, what's
Yeah, I
easier?
printed out 6 copies.
I have hard copy here if anybody.
If you have one extra, I'll take it.
I
print it out.
That's
Great work, Cara. You put a lot of work into that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know that the best use of our time is to kind of go through with comments, tonight. But Mel, is it possible for, I know we've kind of done this before, but for people to turn comments into you and we do them at the next meeting to maybe target, I don't know, putting something in front of council for the next meeting in May, or what's the best use of our time here?
That's totally up to you all.
Do people have comments, first of all, or do we need more time?
It's probably been a while since anybody's looked at this, so I mean, I don't want to put people on the spot, but
Oh, we've looked.
okay.
I was kidding. I did. I don't want to speak for them. I have a question, and this is just ignorance. Is there, if you were going to put in a Venn diagram of like the Colorado native plants and then the noxious weeds, what have you, you're not having any crossover, right? That would create confusion? I don't think so, but I just want to check.
I don't believe so, no.
I see Mayor Sierra's hand is up. Mayor Sierra's hand is up.
Oh, Antonio.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So quick question, Cara. Since this is part 2, what was part 1 brought up?
That was the tree ordinance recommendation.
Oh, okay. So, okay. Well, that answers that then. All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it was kind of, we started out with a very, sort of long recommendation, and it, at the time, was decided it was sort of too big of a bite to chew off at the time, and so we separated it into part 1 and part 2. So part 1 was the tree ordinance that was submitted, and then this is part 2, which would be to sort of update the city code to allow for native plants, and so that citizens aren't getting cited for what somebody might miss the weed, but is actually a native garden or plant in their front yard.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Cara, did I summarize your part 2 accurately by this like high level? I went through it, but I didn't know if there's something you wanted to add to this high level, maybe to like help guide people's thinking too.
No, I mean, that's pretty much it, because there's a very specific section, and then there's just sort of, the argument on why it's important, which, we've had a lot of discussion on already. And then also, I think a big part of this was, conversion to native plants over the long term is supposed to conserve water, right? And so I know Englewood is extremely protective of its water rights, as it should be. But there's concern that with the lower consumption of water, that might play some type of role in the decision process. I don't know how much of a concern that really, truly is, but there's just, some reasoning why it's important, and, how we can maintain our water status.
I like the way you worded it, Cara, because I mean, in the short term, Englewood has lots of water, but in the long term, strategically, Englewood should not be complacent and take for granted that it will always have lots of water. So I thought it was well stated the way you put that together, that we're not talking the next 2 or 3 years. We're talking 5, 10 decades down the road. So
Right.
And I, just for the group, I don't have any problem. I like everything that you wrote down. So we could study it for another month or edit it. That's fine if the group wants to. I guess at some point, it's a recommendation. The council can take the recommendation and do what they will. I think the question we have for ourselves is, do we need more time to process it so that we can come up with a consensus? Or does this encapsulate what most of us believe? So what do you all think?
I'm on the former with that. I wouldn't have any more substantive comments given another month. I thought it was great. But it's fine if other people do.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, so just the highlighted sections would be the edits or additions? That's
fine.
what the recommendation is, and everything else is just explaining why?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so the italics in weed, there's a defined definition of weed in the Englewood City Code, and then that is the specific ordinance directly below it, and that's how we would recommend changing the language. So.
Got it. Yeah, no, I think this looks great.
And if someone were to get a citation, obviously they can refute that, and if they have clearly a native landscape.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Because we have a bunch even in our alley, and it does look unruly sometimes, but they're all native plants. Even weeds can provide habitats for insects and such, but I know I'm getting into the weeds there.
Nice, we were punny tonight. No, I had the same thought, is what, I agree, like these are good changes to make to code and changes to ordinance. What are it sounds like there's gonna be an education component required for code enforcement. If they're the ones handing out citations, correct me if I'm wrong on
Yes, code
process here.
enforcement.
Yeah.
What is there a cost associated with that? And then, yes, is there a process that would need to be implemented for residents to appeal a citation where, when they believe they have grounds to dispute, right? That's another process change to think about.
I think I can answer that.
Yeah.
Rick and I are on code enforcement, and code enforcement enforces what the code says, and there have been some pressure points where code enforcement has been accused of being a little aggressive in going after weeds.
Sure.
And I think everyone acknowledges that there's some confusion over what a weed is. And so in defense of code enforcement, they need some education and they need some clarification. Code enforcement is trying hard to be nice. In fact, Rick's working on some new communication from code enforcement on this very topic. So it's timely. I think this could help code enforcement because it would clarify. But I will say this, when someone complains that code enforcement is being mean to me, I think they bend over backwards. I mean, they do not lower the hammer. This would give the resident of Englewood something to hang their hat on, to say, this is XYZ CSU has it on their list, and I think that problem could be resolved even more easily. But it's a change,
And
everybody resists change.
No, sure.
Go ahead, Christine.
I think this is a good first step, and I don't want to hold this up for this, but I wonder if there's a way the city could facilitate labeling, helping residents label their plants so that code enforcement would know, because it might be hard for code enforcement to memorize, I don't know, 200 plants. But could there be little signs you stick in the ground?
Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
Plant that we could pick up from City Hall or something,
And
or give away.
Rick is on the
Earth Day
communication
things.
subcommittee, and no, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
And I don't think that would be that hard to do. Could eliminate a lot of heartburn, back and forth, back and forth.
Sorry, just to jump in, am I allowed to do this?
You're good.
Go ahead.
It's like it's all new to me. But with all, I'm not joking at all, but right now with AI, do they not have, you could just scan it and see that quick without even.
I don't think so.
You could, like if you're a code enforcement, you scan it, it identifies it. Now you've stopped the homeowner from being upset. We have to take it that far. We don't have to go in front of code enforcement. We're saving time and energy all the way through. So that would be another option to go down. Although I like the signage, it makes it feel very much like Botanic Gardens.
Yeah.
I like it.
A low-tech solution may be all that we need. The other thing that it's interesting in code enforcement, it's always a small percentage of residents that have the issue. I'm not diminishing their concerns, but when code enforcement puts a warning up and says, cut your weeds, something like 97% of everybody says, okay. But the 3% who don't create a lot of energy. Tia, what's up?
Seek is a great app that you can just.
Yes, I just downloaded that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I use Legend
Cool.
AI, but.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
Great idea.
I do want to flag that Othaniel has his hand up.
What's that?
Othaniel has his
Oh, Daniel,
hand
I'm sorry.
Hold on, gotta unmute myself. Michael and Rick, you guys might know this since you guys are on the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee, but did you guys discuss what the next steps are if you guys do make a recommendation for this? Has that been discussed?
On code enforcement or on sustainability?
No, for this item. So since this is a code change, it kind of follows a different process. And
Okay.
I'm not sure if that was discussed or this was communicated to this commission. And I'll be happy to go through it. I may not have my notes correct, but so since this is a code change, if you make a recommendation, then there's going to be a study session. And we may ask members of this commission to come to the study session, or we could just have the city attorney just read out the recommendations. If we want to move forward with the code change, it then goes to the city attorney. The city attorney is going to verify the language and look at the language that was submitted by this committee. And then there's a decision tree there. If there's no substantive changes, then it can just go straight to city council for a vote. If there are going to be changes to the language, then it comes back to the commission for a rewrite or basically just in agreement with what the city attorney classified as changes. So that's basically what the next process would look like if we were to move forward with the recommendation.
Okay.
I
Thank
think
you.
it's the same as what the tree ordinance went through.
I'm sorry.
Well, I guess so, because I guess the tree ordinance we pushed back to, well, it was a little different because we pushed it back to, well, back to staff, back to the arborist to identify which trees. Well, one of the things was which trees are going to be part of the tree ordinance. Are we going to, and I think we agreed that not all trees were going to be created equal. So which trees were we going to consider as part of the tree ordinance? That was one of the items. So it's a little bit different because it wasn't really language. It wasn't really code. It was more just what is it that we're going to make as part of the tree ordinance? If that makes sense.
Yes, yeah, it does. So they stand apart.
They're a little different, yeah.
Is its thing, and the recommendation on the code change, and if I'm hearing you right, Othaniel, there'd be nothing inappropriate about this group
Oh, no.
making a recommendation to council?
No, not at all.
Okay, thank you. And that's,
Not,
and again, that's
Yeah,
that proactive thing we were talking about earlier in the meeting of, it's okay for us to assert ourselves with respect to council, and council can filter and decide what they will. So I just want to make sure I'm not stepping on toes, or we're not going down a pathway that we'll regret 2 months from now or something like that.
no, you guys are perfectly in your right to make the recommendation to the co-chairs, especially for the reasons that you're stating.
Okay. So challenging this group, do you all want to think about this more, edit more, or would I hear a motion to send a recommendation to council?
Motion to send.
Was that Tia saying that she moved that we?
No, yes.
Is that what you were saying, Tia?
Yes.
Thank you. So we have a motion to forward this to council. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tracy. Tracy seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say
Aye.
nay. Oh. Thanks, Cara. And opposed, nay? Since there's nobody opposed, we'd like to send this forward to council and let them ponder or consider what the recommendation is.
Thanks for all your work on this, Cara.
Yeah,
Great work,
thank you
Cara.
guys.
Thank you. That's a lot of
Yeah.
energy went
This is
into
great.
that.
No.
And then related to this, and there's some redundancy here, and you guys assert yourselves. Tracy and I did a very rough draft, and what it really was a recommendation to city council, which basically said, keep up the good work, and here's what we think the city needs to do if they're going to pursue native plants. And Adrian explained the city's on board. They're doing a lot of what we're saying here. So my thought is, we don't have to do anything with this. We can throw it in the wastebasket. Again, it's a recommendation. We could send it to city council. I don't think it contradicts anything we've talked about here tonight. It just probably reiterates some of what our beliefs are. And so Tracy, speak up if I'm summarizing incorrectly or correctly. So what is the feeling of the group? Is this redundant, or does it support or complement what we've already sent to the council?
I mean, it does sound, especially with Parks presenting earlier, that they are moving forward with it. I would just say, and it sounds like they're on board with getting our input on how to do it properly and all of that, because it is, as he said, it's definitely a change in mindset.
Right.
In how you approach landscaping. And so just making sure that it's done with, because you can plant and then just see it grow, and then it could also, go to the wayside. It's not no maintenance. It's still going to need that. So just making sure that it's done properly. But I think it's probably a little redundant at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Othaniel, I don't know if I made this up or whether I heard it, but is council considering a study session on native plants and this new type of landscaping, or is this out there in the ether germinating?
No, I don't think so. I think I'll have to go back, but I think there was a majority of council that just felt we can just leave it in the hands of staff. And staff, I believe, is working with Dana now on Dana and just that neighborhood committee that she was able to organize. But it's in their hands now. We're not going to be looking at this further, but there is just, we've given direction that we want to see it, so.
Okay. And that's good. I mean, it's being delegated and people are working on it.
Right.
So is this group comfortable saying, nice work, Mike and Tracy, but it's redundant and we covered a lot here in our other recommendations?
like you're keeping this on everyone's radar. So
Yes.
yes, nice work.
Okay, well, it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
Okay, then we can move on. What's the next item here?
That is me. Okay, I'm sharing the wrong thing.
Let's see, city updates. It's the
Mike,
mill
I think you can keep that as a rubric for if we don't see progress or movement. We can file that document away and we can use it again as a building block or a letter of recommendation to
Sure.
council that we want to see some expediency.
Maybe a reinforcement
Yes.
down the road or
Yes.
something. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for putting that together.
I already know we're at 7:40, so I'm gonna barrel
Okay.
through these. City updates, so we had our Colorado Scaping Talk with Dana on the 3rd. It went really well. We had over 30 people there. Dana, no shocker here, crushed it. We launched our sustainability grant. Hopefully you all saw it yesterday. It's in both English and Spanish. Please get the word out. We can do 6 projects up to $1,000 each. On the 11th, we have Compost Colorado coming to do a compost talk. It should be really awesome. We have our EV ride and drive. It's during lunchtime. I'm gonna buy a bunch of pizzas coming out with us. It'll be really fun. And then we have the river cleanup and the Earth Day celebration on the 27th. And then to close out the month, that rain barrel workshop, which so far I think we only have 4 people signed up to get a
No, you have
kit.
8. I looked today.
Oh,
And
really?
I told my husband, I was like, yo, I think you should do this. And
Oh,
he said, "Maybe."
good. I was like, wow, I totally thought people would have jumped in this
Yes, I
opportunity.
wanted to do it, but they
So
haven't.
sign up, it should be good. But one question I wanted to ask the Sustainability Commission was if you all decided if you wanted to have a table there, if you wanted to just be part of the sustainability table that the CMO is having, or if folks just want to come and drink beer and not table out there, that's totally fine too.
I'm tabling with Compost Colorado.
Oh, perfect.
Not for you.
I think, didn't we, what'd you say, Tiana? I thought last month we said, since the city has a table, we're good. Will you be there, Mel?
I will be there. I'm running the whole circus,
Right.
the whole
Wow.
3 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll be there, kind of.
I'd have thought that I didn't have last time though. I wonder if us and ETAC and Parks and Rec commissions could share a table and say, here are some committees, boards and commissions that might interest you in the future that you could consider putting your name in for. Instead of promoting our sustainability activities, it would be promoting joining boards and commissions where you can make a difference on sustainability actions.
I can reach out to those commissions.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
What were the other 2?
ETAC,
Yeah.
And
Parks, maybe planning and zoning.
Yeah.
I don't think you can have 4, but maybe 3 of us.
There's no limit.
I don't know.
Will there be?
Here's how you would, here's when the deadlines are for boards and commissions. Here's how you put your name in. Here's a paragraph about each, what it does. Here, take a handout.
That's how I learned about the Sustainability Commission, was during the Earth Day event last year.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
See, that's such good
Cool.
feedback to hear.
Yeah, and that's when I put in to,
See, it makes a difference. I'll make sure at my table I at least have, last year, I think it was the QR code to sign up for it. I'll have something very similar of that.
I'm just, are we throwing ideas out?
Yeah.
Okay. Did I interrupt you?
Go for it.
Go for it.
Okay, well, I was just gonna say, it's not like, I don't know, the time does not maybe seem like it's too close, but it wouldn't be a terrible idea to do some type of education on native plants, since this is such a huge
that's
thing.
what I was gonna
Where it could have been
say.
like, here, we got a sign. Butterfly.
Just like an informational thing, or just, I'm such a visual person.
Oh, this is the
Like
visual-
just having like a, I don't know, poster board or something of a native Colorado scape. Maybe it's Depot Park, because I don't think a lot of people see Depot Park necessarily. It depends on where you live in Inglewood. But I think that would be a really great time to
And
showcase.
I would be willing. I was thinking, I could get some biochar and give people free biochar. I mean, seriously, it's like Shotsky's, you know, you hand out
Yes,
little
have,
things and people, you want to talk about something.
do that. You
I-
should. I think it's
I
a
would
good
be
idea.
glad to
People love
blab
free
about
things.
biochar.
Have
and
like
give a
little
free sample
bags
If you
and
want to
then-
take it home and play with it.
You
But
can
I
have
mean,
little-
I don't know, like, we say
Yes.
education
Yeah, I
and,
like it.
and there are people who want to know about it. And I'll go on if they want to listen.
And you got a,
Cara, I see your hand up.
I mean, it's $15 for a huge bag of biochar, so I can give out free samples.
I'll add it to my list.
But I don't want to jam up the itinerary here.
I was on the topic of education on native plants. I know, and Mel, maybe you have more insight into how this works, but I know the city has partnered with Dana on some educational opportunities already. Yeah. I wonder if there is more opportunity to partner with her there for, you know, an educational opportunity at Depot Park. I know I've had conversations with Dana about hosting another volunteer day for like spring cleanup. And we were thinking the weekend of April 20th to do like a spring cleanup session. But if there's like an educational component, maybe there's an opportunity to partner with her there. I don't. I know the committee has a budget of some sorts. Mel, that's pretty much under your discretion. But
The commission, so the commission doesn't have a budget. They did have a budget when we were doing the hazardous waste events, but we're not doing that anymore because we're doing the at your door program instead.
But you have a pocketbook.
Yeah, not much.
Not much.
well, there's an opportunity to do some more educational partnerships, and especially, you know, with local citizens. I think that's pretty cool. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what have we decided?
Not to have a table.
Not to have a table.
I'll
But
reach out
to
to the other
have-
commissions though
Oh,
and see if
but
they
to
want to
have,
be there.
yeah.
And then maybe it's like a commission sign up for
Yeah.
folks who do want to come.
Not to have a separate table.
And Mel, are volunteers needed? Do you need help? Is there something we can do to help you?
We're looking for a waste ambassador, so someone by the compost bins, but we might have that figured out. So TBD, I'm trying to get everything
Okay.
situated this week. I'm just
Don't
living on the
hesitate to
edge of
call
my
me
seat
if you have
apparently.
some last minute
Thank
need.
you, I appreciate that. I hope you'll come, it should be really good. We have live music from this guy named Felix Dale, who's gonna be really awesome. We have Sanitas there, we're gonna have Humane Society and a lot of other really cool folks, so.
And how's this being communicated?
We have pushed it on as much as we could, so
Okay.
we did an e-newsletter, social media, yeah, emails and social media mainly. And at each event that I have, so at the Colorado Scaping, we have flyers there. But if you all think of other ways that are better, I'm always open ears to that. Okay, for time's sake, I'll move on unless other folks have stuff. Perfect. I just wanted to flag this. So the sustainability grant is open. I got feedback from Rick, and I believe it was Tracy too at the last meeting, to do a sliding scale. And I just wanted to explain why we aren't doing that. When I went back into the map, we actually have 8 areas that are over 90%. That's a big chunk. So we just said, we're gonna keep it as is because there's high need in these areas. But as I said before, anyone from any census block in Englewood can apply to them. You don't have to be at a 90% or above. And then really quick for the city updates for past and upcoming city council related items. We presented on the low income energy efficiency outreach strategy, so that is done. We got approval to apply for a public building electrification grant, which we already submitted our grant proposal. So that's in for up to $750,000 to kind of what we were talking about earlier, the importance of electrifying buildings to do exactly that for some of our municipal buildings.
Was there any discussion on that or no concerns? Okay.
No, not that.
Great.
Yeah. And then for April 15th, that's when the strategic plan updates are going. And so it's at that meeting that we'll find out if those carbon reduction targets stay or get strengthened or worsened.
Okay.
And then May meeting. So Evan, the tree protection ordinance was supposed to come this month. That snowstorm was why the Parks Commission couldn't meet last month, and he wants them to see it first before it comes here. So he's hoping to be here in May. We have Compost Colorado coming. Tracy, I don't know if you want to talk about them coming.
Coming when?
In the May
11th?
meeting?
Oh, they're coming, that's right, Noah did say that. That's all I know.
Oh,
Is
so
that
the
he's-
folks at Compost Colorado, they have really, really awesome program right now, the Neighborhood Ambassador Program. So they wanted to come to talk to the commission about that, but then also answer any like compost questions people have. So if you all are all okay with it, they proposed that they would like to come. And then the last thing is having you all look at the volume 3 of the newsletter for the review. And I saw the recording of the last time that this was here when I wasn't here. And just so everyone knows, I put a send date of the day after the commission meeting just because it helps me keep on a schedule. But if there's something super huge in the newsletter that people are like, I want this added or changed, like that's not a set in stone date. It just helps me. So just to put it out there. It's always flexible, you know.
Will you have a sign up for the newsletter at the Earth Day event? So people can sign up for the sustainability.
Yes, I have like a laundry list of QR codes that I'm gonna print out, and I have that on my list.
Yeah, so what's gonna be at the table for the sustainability?
There's gonna be a lot, so a QR code considering it's the sustainability grant, the newsletter, QR codes to some of our plans, to the low income outreach plan, the low income energy efficiency outreach plan, the sustainability plan, EV action plan. And then I have others, I have them all written down. There'll be a few things, anything sustainability related. Oh, and the launching of our green business program, if businesses have questions on that. Yeah, we're hoping to have that person hired in a month, we're hoping. Right now, I'm that person, I'm doing twofer. Logan?
I was crossing my fingers for you.
Oh,
Somebody.
thank you.
In addition to adding to this list, like I mentioned earlier, Mel, if you can help set up a Sustainability Commission Communication Subcommittee meeting, perhaps 30 minutes prior to the May 14 meeting.
Does that sound good to the subcommittee folks?
Cara, Tracy, I think good.
Cara, does that sound good to you? Okay, I think I saw a head nod.
Okay. That's fine. I think that's great. I think we can cover everything we need to cover in that half-hour block, and then we can make a recommendation to this commission to vote on that evening.
That sounds good.
And I think it'll be good, because that's due June 6th.
Any other things for May?
Mel, I did just ask, on the like cleanup at Depot Park, is it possible to organize a volunteer sign-up sheet for that, or?
Yeah, so I was waiting to hear back from Dana on what she wanted to do, because the email I didn't get if she wanted to do that weekend or not, but I can connect with her.
Okay.
And send that out, absolutely.
Yeah, I know she wanted to do it earlier, but I think that, if the 20th is what works, then.
Yeah, I went forth on some dates with her, and that was the earliest that at least the two of us could sync up. But
Yeah.
there's a date that works better for somebody else on the commission, then we could certainly try to do it earlier. But
Well,
Yeah, I'll send her
only
a
2
follow-up
weeks away.
email tomorrow, because I didn't hear back from her today, so I'll just see if she wants me to get something pushed out.
yeah, that-
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, public forum. I don't
Nada.
believe we have anybody from the public. That being the case, I move we adjourn. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
Congrats, Tracy. See ya.
Thank you.
Tracy, is it like when people turn 21 and they're like, I feel so much older?
It's so official.
I feel so official. Check my ID, check my membership ID.
My husband's like, how's it gonna be different? I'm like, it's not.
So the nice thing is, you're your term officially starts
I gotcha.
today.
You
So
never
your
know.
alternate
Like I
doesn't
said,
count
don't be
against
shy.
your membership.
I might ask her.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's
so
like-
then
For
it's
sure.
Yeah, we could make it
two,
great.
is it 2 years?
Yeah, thank
And
you.
the other
But
thing
is
Yeah,
it-
so terms are 2 years, and then you're allowed to do like, oh god, I
Yeah,
should
why
know, it's
not?
like 4 2-year
Practice, you know?
terms.
Exactly.
There's a lot of pressure
I
back
think. So Mike has been on the commission since I think
for the
2018,
few and
2016.
proud.
So this is his last year because he's termed out of all the terms.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank
Did
you.
guys know that?
Overachiever.
Then this is Mike's last year being in.
Of course.
Can
Dang.
it restart after you've taken a break?
That is a great question. I'm not sure.
Huh. Can we like vote on extending?
You can't.
We don't want you to.